All right, hi everyone. I'm super glad I caught you all post-lunch, so hopefully you're all re-energized. Right now, I'm gonna be talking about what it means moving from feature-based to trunk-based development and why you might wanna do something like that. And also, I'm Natalie. All right, so there are obviously many ways to do this, but with feature-based development, the majority of your work happens on this one development branch. And you might be branching off of it, there might be different iterations, but you're seldomly merging back into your main branch. And this is great for some people, but obviously not for everyone for several reasons. It's really hard to stay in sync with the main branch, stay up to date. Your pull requests become way too complex, your diffs are often very huge, and it's just overwhelming for you and everyone working with you. And can you achieve CI/CD with Git flow? And the answer is not by definition. Like, yes, you obviously should still have a CI/CD pipeline if you're doing Git flow, but if you're talking about CI/CD in the traditional sense, which is like when you're merging and testing and verifying small batches of code, ideally on a daily basis, you really need trunk-based development in order to achieve that, at least in its purest form. And that way it's because CI/CD, at the end of the day, works best with TBD because CI/CD is applied TBD. You can't really have one without the other. You need TBD to move fast enough to have CI/CD, and you need CI/CD in order to test your code changes with TBD. So let's take a look at TBD and what it looks like. So with feature-based development, we were working off of the develop branch, but with trunk-based development, we're committing directly to main. And you can see here that these code changes are often very small, very quick. And why we didn't do this so much before, it's a best practice, but it was really difficult to achieve up until recently. And just because you need a lot of cloud resources, you need special compute, special tooling to be able to push and test this quickly. And obviously, TBD isn't always the answer. It really comes down to your team, your product, your org structure. It's a better answer than Git flow by all means, but you might have some hybrid system like GitHub flow where you have something like a pull request used as a manual gate before actually pushing to your main branch. And TBD typically is committing directly to main, but sometimes you might benefit from having short-lived feature branches. So here are three starters, three things that you might want to think about before going into TBD. You want to look at this before, after, and during integration, and you also want to make a combination of changes to people, process, and tooling within your org. First and foremost, people. TBD kind of changes the way that you work. You need to really start from the ground up with the way that you manage people, because it doesn't matter how fast you can program a feature. Like, if you can't get someone to review it on the spot, you're going to break that flow and you're not going to be able to do TBD. Also, just changing the way you commit, using atomic Git commits or commits in their smallest possible standalone iterations, so you can have really fast rollbacks and figure out exactly where you went wrong and not break anything because it's not stacked. Also, just finding ways to enable developer experience, because if your team isn't in good flow and if they're feeling blocked by things, then that's also something that only they can really tell you. So making sure you assess that and seeing better ways that you can enable them to ship fast. Also, testing, lots and lots of testing. And I usually mean like before and after integration, just to see, because things will change environment to environment. You want to be doing test-driven development. If you're writing code, you should be writing tests. And also, this goes hand in hand with people, but just making sure that you have smart feedback loops, not just feedback loops. So you have a lot of test automation up until the very last possible moment, which is when you would queue in your other peer to review your code so you don't bother them too much. And last but not least, observability. It's basically insurance against your test suite. It's finding out, like, yes, you trust your test suite well enough to be able to push fast enough, but you want to make sure that if something goes wrong, you know immediately. And if you're doing something like continuous deployment in that you're deploying directly to production instead of having a manual gate, you're putting a lot of trust in your test suite. So you obviously want to be able to have rollback as quick as possible. So in short, TBD is great because it's easier for the developer, because you're dealing with smaller broken down features at a time. It's just easier to move forward and recover because everything is super granular. And it just promotes good team practices in general, because you can't do TBD with poor engineering practices. You really need to work towards it. It's not going to happen overnight. All right, thank you so much. My name is Natalie. It's been wonderful to be here.
work. Thank you so much.